Looks as if the whole thing is.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I put a taller vase on there this time. So.
Yeah, I like it. That's nice.
That'll wake you up. This is our call to worship. As we worship, let us open our minds and our hearts to the place of quiet, to the silent prayer for healing of pain and the soft, gentle coming of love. When we light the chalice in the chapel, those at home are welcome to light their own chalice or a candle at home and be part of the service. Our chalice lighting words are by Juliana Leap. We seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. Thank you. Welcome to Eastrose Fellowship Unitarian Universalist worship service. I am the Reverend Suzie Matranga-Watson. I go by the pronouns she and her. I will be your worship leader today. Today's speaker is our very own active member, Keene Clay. Whoever you are, from wherever you come, you are welcome here. Whomever you love, however you define family, you are welcome. The identities you hold, the pronouns you choose are respected and welcome. Whatever the color of your skin, the language your grandparents spoke, the cultures that move in your being, the abilities and disabilities you hold, we welcome you. Whatever you believe, whatever your theology, prayer, sacrament, or if none at all, you are welcome. Now I extend a special welcome to those who may be joining us for the first time, either in person or online, and we hope to see you again. For those online, later in today's service, during joys and concerns, you may write down them in the chat, and I will share them at the appropriate time. For those in the chapel, please silence your cell phones. If you can. Come on, there we go. And refrain from texting or surfing the internet as we enter our time of devotion. Now, with those in the chapel, please turn and greet our neighbors online. The cameras are in the back and we can wave to them. I know I really like this when I am online and I see everyone's smiling face. It makes me feel even more important. And now turn and greet your neighbors in the chapel. Will everyone please be seated? At the end of the service, there's coffee and tea, and you can talk and share at that time. This is the time that we do land acknowledgement. Eastrose is located in the homeland of the Upper Chewaucan people. We acknowledge in particular the Multnomah Band of the Chinooks, as well as their neighbors and frequent visitors to the area, including Clackamas, Cowlitz, Athaliah, Kalupa, Malala, Klickitat, Cascades, the Confederate tribes of Grand Ronde, and the Confederate tribes of the Siletz Indians. All the original nations of this land who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. Our opening words are by Kathleen McTigg. We come together this morning to remind one another to rest for a moment of the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude. Taking time to look in each other's faces and to see their communion, the reflection of their own eyes. This house of laughter and silence, memory and hope is hallowed by our presence together. The opening hymn is Lean on Me by Bill Winters, and the words will be on the screen. It's also in the teal hymnal, 1021. I invite you to stand if you're willing and able to sing this hymn. And I want to thank Mary for her beautiful music. Every service that she plays, I am always impressed on her piano playing and her just inspiration of choosing the right songs and the right hymns. Okay.
Let us have any kids that we have come up front and This may be a little over their heads, but we will play the game anyway, because it's for all ages. Remember the all ages part? Hi there.
All ages, you're going to get tested.
Do you know what a chameleon is? A chameleon is something that looks different in different places. It changes its shape and color to match the environment. And so I have a little story to tell. Let's start off with just a picture here. This is a picture that my brother took. We'll see it again later. And it's kind of hard for me to see it right now, but I looked at this picture for a year, and all of a sudden I saw in it an eye in the sky that opened up. And if you look right up in this area, there's an eye in the sky there that shows up, and it's looking down. And it's just something that I wasn't aware of. And I sat and looked at it for a year before I saw it. So it's just, sometimes you don't always see or see what you expect to see. So this is a poem that I wrote some years ago, and it's called the Happy Monster Poem. And I did a little rewrite last year, and so this is the current state of it. It'll probably change twice before anything else happens. Now, here's a happy monster for you to play with in your dreams. He's called a chameleon monster, and he may not be what he seems. He's friends to toddlers, tykes, and oldsters, although in different forms. To some, he's large enough, to others, small and warm. You may not see this monster. He's in the shadows in the park. He's also there that needed friends that guards kids' closets in the dark. You wonder why he's happy? This monster friend of ours, when monsters should be mean and sad for castles crushing cars. Even this monster was once hated, but he was nasty indeed. He could be seen stealing maidens. He was scary whenever seen. He would be lurking in the shadows, never showing off his face. People shuddered when they saw him. He was not welcome any place. And he was not happy. He was always wore a frown. He grew tired of scares and torment. Being nasty got him down. For a while he stopped lurking, just hung around the log. He didn't enjoy what he was doing. He became listless like a log. He stayed there months and weeks and years, not knowing what to do. He stayed there because he didn't want to scare the kids like me and you. And one day he felt lonely, and he left the log for a walk. He sulked around big trees, refusing to be seen or talk. The stroll took him from the forest into a city park, with kids and trees and swings and things, and even laughter after dark. He stopped to hear the laughter. He broke his spot. The corners of his scary mouth turned upwards, but not a lot. He scratched his head and was puzzled. Not sure if he should smile or not. Why did he want to smile a little from the laughter of some tot? He continued with his laughter, not aware of the scary beast. Gradually the monster smile grew. Toothy grin at the very least. Then he began to chuckle. Strange sound for his kind. It wasn't scary laughter, but a simple, happy child's kind. Only when the monster laughed did the child know he was not alone. And he looked up and saw that smiling face with a friendly, smiling tone. He wasn't afraid of that monster. He didn't scream or shout. He didn't run to his mother. He continued to laugh out loud. The monster snuck back in bushes. See what the monster came. While he laughed, his child's laughter still echoed in his brain. And echoed through the sleep that night. He enjoyed each soft chord. He knew that something wasn't quite right. Why wasn't the child scared? And furthermore, he wasn't scared. I must have failed, the monster thought. But he found he wasn't sorry. He had enjoyed those smiles a lot. He wanted to test his smile to see if it would still work. He decided to go that very night and test it in the dark. He picked up a child's bed. He picked a child's bedroom with a big closet on one side and sat there by the closet prepared to smile, big and wide. But then the child had a mad nightmare and dreamed of bears in the closet space. But when he looked at the closet door, he saw this monster's smiling face. Knowing it was friendly, he turned over and went back to sleep with a little laugh, a little smile. Now protected, he could sleep deep. Pleased, he left the closet door, knowing the bears was coming no more. He smiled in the child's relief and declared, "I shall scare no more." The excited tested the plan to have a family caught in a storm with lightning, thunder and rain so strong, and only a blanket to keep him warm. The smile spread across a big gray cloud that was lit by an electric spark. And the family saw and smiled and waited, knowing a friend was with them in the dark. And this was the start of this monster of peace. He was welcome wherever he gets. His friendly smile, his gentle laugh is the strangest and most welcome yet. He triggers high moods for all around. He helps the sun shine through clouds. He rushes back the first birds of spring. Makes autumn colors bright and loud. And when you were scared, alone at night, or just somewhere in distress, just remember to look in the sky and the grass and perform this simple test. Look at the leaves and the clouds and the grass and listen to the waters flow. Search in the dark for that smile and laugh. Or somewhere in this shirt to show. Thank you.
Now, people on the aisle, make a bridge, and we will sing Children Are Child out. The big baby, little one. We hold you in our love as you grow, as you grow. May your heart be at peace as you grow. To nurture the spark of your precious life, we hold you in our love as you grow. Generosity of Spirit by Victoria Weinstein. The purpose of the church is to encourage all who gather there to grow more generous in spirit and in action. This is the great end of all the world's faith traditions, to bring the human being closer to the divine by acts of creation and compassion. We will now receive our offering for the support of this religious community and the community as a whole. If you are a visitor for the first time, we ask you to pass the basket. Your presence is enough for us today. At Eastrose, half the cash collection goes to an organization performing charitable works in the community. This quarter, we share with Outgrowing Hunger. Outgrowing Hunger builds and operates community farms and gardens for refugees, immigrants, and people who care about affordable access to real food in the Portland and Gresham area. The money we raise will be used for free tokens for the community members at the Rockwood Farmers Market. Please stay seated and sing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. This is a reading called In Any Event by Dorian Luex. If we are fractured, we are fractured, like stars, bred to shine in every direction, through any dimension, billions of years since and hence. I shall not lament the human, not yet. There is something more to come. Our hearts a gold mine, not yet plumbed, an uncharted sea. Nothing is gone forever. If we came from dust and will return to dust, then we can find our way into anything. What we are capable of is not yet known, and I praise us now in advance. Keene will be sharing the reflection.
I want to talk about what I refer to as the seventh source. I believe that all people are on a spiritual path. Some are searching. Some are being directed by theological guide rails. Some are mindlessly drifting, but all of us are surrounded by clues and cues that influence us. I believe that spirituality is basically a right brain function, spatial relationship function that involves our connectedness with some deeper nonverbal level. All of us are looking for a relationship with that something greater than ourselves. At any given time, that something greater may be God, the universe, nature, a political party, or the Trailblazers. The UU faith talks about 6 sources and 7 principles. We are moving forward with a rewrite and rethink of our basic principles. I propose, slightly tongue-in-cheek, that we recognize the UU 7th source as part of that process. My proposed UU 7th source includes, but is not limited to, rhymes, comics, fridge magnets, pets, coffee cups, Post-its, parental wisdom, fortune cookies, popular songs, special places, historical perspective, children's books, and people we meet along the way. In other words, life. Much of how we think about what we believe are the result of random exposures that creep their way into our thought patterns and help to construct our view of the world. Statements made or advanced by unknown others get stuck in our heads and help us to define who we are and our relationship with that something greater than ourselves. Today, I want to honor those influences and recognize their unique place in our spiritual journey. I expect that we all have recurrent exposures from favorite mementos, comics, memories, quotables, and other things that help you stay balanced or help you question if you're getting lost. They challenge you, relax you, and give you perspective. Many times, their influence is below the surface and you're not fully aware of how they may aid your spiritual, moral journey. I am going to talk about some of mine and the stories that go along with how and where they entered my life. I hear myself bringing this up in conversations as a means of illustrating a point or reinforcing a position. Each person has a separate list, but together they constitute our individual seventh source. I will reference and explain some of the ones that advise me constantly and give a brief history of how they came into my life and how I find myself using them. Before we start, I want you to pause for a moment and listen to the musical interlude supplied by Mary. Still your inner conversation and let the music play you. So be part of the music. Music without words touches something in us that is whole. It is complete. It talks to us on a level before we started explaining things to ourselves. It talks to us on a level that is quite personal and can be very emotional. Music with words adds something to that because it has that connection, but it also has a message. And the message is something that will get into us in a different way when it's attached to words than when it's just stated. Because it has the music tends to open us up to the other part of the message. Popular songs, such as Let It Be, can very easily get into our heads as a mantra, as a message, as a, we all know what that song is. We all have heard it. We all play it in our heads at times. It's something that's universal. There are other songs that will do that for us. And go ahead. Next. There was a time in my life where I went to sleep every night listening to Enya. And I listened to this one album over and over and over. And finally, one night, I focused on the words for whatever reason. It caught me. And there's a line in the song that she's singing. And a lot of times you can't understand what she's singing. But this comes out really clear. It says, taking time from the helter-skelter. Even though you fall, everything's in kilter. And what struck me is I had never thought of things being in kilter. I've heard of out of kilter. The word kilter was always a negative, and I had never used it as in kilter. And combined with the thought that just because things don't go the way you want them to or the way they should go according to some should that you have, it doesn't mean it was wrong. It doesn't mean it was a negative. It doesn't mean it was bad. It just means it's a setback and put your feet down and keep going. And it's a message that reinforced every night for probably 2 years before I found the next Enya album and listened to that for the next 2 years. there's a lot of things in nature that connect us definitely to something greater. If you have never been to Palouse Falls, I would suggest you go out of your way to find it. It's just north of Walla Walla, Washington, about an hour. And it is a huge cavern that was made by a flood. The flood was so massive that this whole cavern was probably carved out in about 2 weeks. It was not a long-term thing that happened over time. It was just a massive expression of power and force and change. And to look at that and to learn the history of it speaks to me in a way that says, my position in this world is not very big, and I need to recognize the power of the rest of the world. Next one. This is a comic strip that I cut out some time ago as an illustration of what I want to say. Comic strips speak to us again in a different way. They let us laugh at ourselves a little bit. They challenge us. They tell us things that we wouldn't necessarily want to hear. And so the rat is hiking up the hill to go see the wise ass on the hill. And he gets up at the top and he says, "Oh, great wise ass, why are we put here on earth?" The wise ass says, "To love one another." And the rat says, "Well, where does acquiring as much loot as we can come in?" It doesn't. And as it gets down to the bottom, he says, "One of us has been badly misinformed." But it talks to us in a way that is a little bit different and gets us to reflect on something that sometimes we may not want to talk about. You know, what is important in our lives? Go ahead. Again, Snoopy. They talk to us all the time. You know, Snoopy is a lesson in life. Charlie Brown sitting there and says, "We only live once, Snoopy." And Snoopy, with his wisdom, says, "Wrong. We only die once. We live every day." And we have to look at each day as a start, as a restart, as a change, as a place to plant our feet and go forward. And we were talking about Mary's piano playing a few minutes ago. And when I first came into the church, I was enamored with it. I still am. But I see myself as Lucy at the piano listening to Schroeder play. I could just see myself sitting there on the piano listening to it. So, but music speaks to us, comics speak to us. It's all just kind of part of that background noise that makes a difference in our emotional, spiritual lives. Next one. This is a coffee cup that came into my life from I don't know where. And it is a picture of a path dividing in the woods, and your life one way, and the other road says no longer an option. And we have to recognize that, again, it's one of those things that's a message that's just there on a coffee cup. And it reminds us that when we make a choice, that choice is there, and we'll never have that choice again. It'll never be the same choice. We may have another fork in the road, and we may make another choice, but that first choice that we could have made that changes everything has changed everything. And we just have to keep going. I had a patient come into the office many years ago, and he was a patient for a long time. Delightful man who had had a left brain stroke and could no longer speak in normal sentences, in normal ways. And he was always upbeat. We had this great relationship between us. I could talk to him and play with him, and as long as we were patient, we would be okay. But he really had only one thing that he would say. He could say yes and he could say no. But he would say problem, 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 and then he would pause and he'd say one thing at a time. But what he would do is he had all the tonal inflections of a sentence and of a thought, and he would put them into this, so it could be problem, 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 one thing at a time. Problem, 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 one thing at a time, one thing at a time. And so you got an idea of what he was thinking from the tonal inflections of what he was saying. And he hadn't lost the tonal inflections, he just lost his ability to put sentences together. And this was what was left. And through yes and no and problem, can you see that? Problem, one thing at a time, one thing at a time. Okay, can you see that? Problem. And he taught me a great deal about to live and adapt to hardship. And I hope if I ever have that risk or problem come up, that I can do as well as he did and maintain his well-being, the well-being as well as him. He sets a standard for me to look for and to go back to. Next one. This is a photograph from our yard, and it's simply a pillar of light, of red light, and it's untouched. It was just the way it showed up. And again, we all find spiritual enlightenment and awe and wonder from things like this, moments like this, places like this. Being open to that awe and wonder is a gift that we have. I don't know if other creatures share it. I don't know if my dog Sonny ever looks at it and says, oh, that was a cool pillar of light. But I know I do. And I know that it enriches me in many, many ways when things like that show up. Next one. As I grew up, I was entertained in Boy Scouts for a while. And the Scout Law, again, is another one of those things like our 7 principles, and it's another thing like the 10 Commandments, another thing like so many other things that give us an idea of how we're supposed to live. But a Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Now, if you live up to that, you're doing pretty darn good. And I'm sure I don't. Clean is one of the things that I'm very not into. But it's one of those things that sticks in the back of my head. It's something there that's foundational from childhood. Later on in life, switch it. I picked up this. I was never in the Optimist Club. This is a disclaimer, but I picked up the poster that talks about the Optimist Creed, because there is so much good in this to contemplate that I had it on my wall in my office for years, just to kind of, again, it's a message that grounds us and a message that says one way to live. And it is, promise yourself to be so strong that nothing can disturb your peace of mind, to talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person you meet, to make all your friends feel like there's something in them, to look at the sunny side of everything and make your optimism come true, to think only of the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best, to be just as enthusiastic about the success of others as you are about your own, to forget the mistakes of the past and press on to the greater achievements of the future, to wear a cheerful countenance at all times and give every living creature you meet a smile, to give so much time for the improvement of yourself you have no time to criticize others, to be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble. Again, if that was the creed you lived by, you'd be in pretty good shape. If you could live up to that 50% of the time, you're doing pretty good. But it's a standard that is out there that just kind of plays in your head, knowing that it's there. I couldn't recite it, but I do know it. And it has been part of who I am. Go ahead. When I moved out here 45 years ago, or more, when I don't even know how many years it was, 79 or 77. I brought a couple postcards with me, one of them by Ashley Brilliant. He started writing these things in 1974 or 73, something like that, and he's still doing them. But they're little cards, maximum words, 17 words on a card with a little cartoon. And the cartoon is a picture of a kitten with a quizzical look on its face and a ball of twine, and this kitten is just completely wrapped up in this ball of twine. So put that image on top of that. And the caption is, single-handedly, I fought my way into this hopeless mess. And so many times in life, when you get to a point of being stuck or having a challenge in front of you, it's exactly where you were aiming for. It's exactly what you signed up for. Whether it be job or marriage or taking a vacation trip and having a problem along it just because that's what things happen. You know, it's kind of like, well, let's just accept this and move on. This is just part of life. And it's a message that I have referred to multiple times. Go ahead. This is a picture of a kiva in the Southwest. It's probably about 75 feet across. Picture it with a dome over the top that is a solid roof with a hole in the center for smoke to get out. And it is a worship, meeting, social place for the Native Americans of the Southwest 800 years ago. Not unlike where we're at right now. Not unlike what we do here. And they had their own ceremonies, their own belief systems, their own way of looking at the world, their own questions. But to stand at the edge of that and look at it and picture people coming and going and being in there and interacting with each other, it says we're not so different. We haven't changed that much. There is a place and a structure. We are builders, we are worshipers, we are friends, family, we are industrious. And it just puts a connection through time. Okay. Dr. Seuss probably warped me more than anything else. And there were several books that probably got read to me or that I read 100 times or more. One of them was, Did I Ever Tell You How Lucky You Are? And it basically just explains all the things that you could have been but you're not. All the problems you could have had that you don't. And it really is something that is still part of me. Another one was If I Ran the Zoo. If I ran the zoo, said young Gerald McGrew, I'd make a few changes. That's what I'd do. Lions and tigers and that kind of stuff are really quite nice, but they're not quite enough. And it just talks about being open to change and open to new things and new ideas and trying to alter how you do things. I think I do that more than I should sometimes, but I have to remember that that's in my background. There was another one that was Scrambled Eggs Deluxe, a la Peter T. Hooper, which has kind of the same thing. It's kind of like, how do you embellish scrambled eggs? Go ahead. Peace and love. This is a greeting that my father-in-law closed all of his interactions with, whether it be a letter or a goodbye or when we were parting, a phone call. Peace and love always was the end of the call. And I was at a garage sale, and I found the sign, and it now occupies a significant place in our living room. And I think, thanks to Grant Kanega, it is a message that I think should be central to everybody, central to everything and every situation. Next. This is my dog, Sonny, and he's not really in trouble here. But when he gets into something or sniffing at something or chewing on something or doing something that we don't want him to do, I very firmly say, leave it. And he will after I said it the third time, usually leave it. He has to assume that I find out that I mean it, and then he'll do it. And I'm not much different than that. I've found that when I'm lying asleep at night, getting ready to go to sleep at night, there are times that my mind is just churning on things. It's got stuff in it that I can't do anything about at that moment. I couldn't fix if I had to, but it's just going over and over and over in my head. And as a form of kind of meditation, I tell myself, leave it. And if it doesn't the first time, I'll say it again and again. And eventually clear the conversation and move away from it. And again, it's one way that pets influences us, and we can all come up with ways that pets influence us. They teach us love, they teach us loyalty, they teach us patience a lot. But it's one of those things in most people's lives that are underplayed but very meaningful for most of us. Next one. Some days the dragon wins. Again, it goes back to one of the other ones I was talking about, and that is we don't always come out on top. We don't always get what we want. We don't always find success at what we try to do. Not all battles come out in our favor. And if we can accept that and move on to the next action, the next day, it's healthier. It is part of the spiritual journey of being whole. And this is from Jay Bergsma, who is an artist. She moved on to other things, but she did these cartoon prints, and we got into them for a while. We have quite a few of them at home in various forms, various things, but they speak to us on a different level. Again, a cartoon with a message. Okay. We've all seen this one. God grant me the ability to change the things I can, the strength to accept the things I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. If you have one prayer, that's not a bad prayer to have. To recognize what we can and can't do, what we should or shouldn't do, and what we should try and what we should just leave. Again, it's one of those things that's in our lives. We've all seen it, and it's one of the sources. Next one. There are two lasting bequests we can give our children. The first is roots, and the second, wings. Again, in raising children, this is a spiritual message for parents. Basically, we have to know when to hold on and when to let go. And that's incredibly difficult sometimes, and it's also incredibly important. I have likened raising children to flying a kite. The kite is not flown because of the wind. It's flown because of the string. If you let go of the string, the kite will simply tumble. If you hold on to the string and don't let it out, it won't go up. If you let it out too fast, it will fall. If the string breaks, you lose the kite. And so it's a dance between holding on and letting go. And it's kind of another form of that. Okay. We all put messages for ourselves in various places in various ways. And this is one that I have had in my back pocket for a long time. Don't get too personally involved in your own life. What you're doing is what everybody else has done. This is something that life does to you. Whatever it is that's happening, it's what life does to you. And if you can remember that, if those messages are in front of you, if there are things that you put on and Post-its on your mirror, if there are reminders about how you should act or how you should be, if there's somebody else that said it and you post that on your mirror as a reminder of who they are and what they've told you, then it is a meaningful message, and it is part of our spiritual makeup. One more. And another post-it. And I spelled chalice wrong. They let me know that. But don't hide the chalice. Let your light shine. That is the message of the UU faith. Let your light shine. And that was one that we can all post and live by. And just a couple more. This is my brother dealing with cancer on one of our trips to the coast. And this is basically his attitude towards life and the way he has embraced life and his dealing with the issues of the cancer. And that's why he's still alive, I believe. How long, how much more, that's not ours to know. But recognizing this type of spirit in the world, recognizing this type of exuberant wonder and outreach towards whatever is bigger than us, I think is worth honoring and reflecting on. And finally, one more. We all enjoy our chalice window, which is hidden. And it is one of those things that has a message to all of the UUs that are out there. I'm not sure, or I'm sure all of us construct our own list that would include many of these background truths and sources in our conscious and subconscious awareness. Some we refer to actively, and others are just there as little birdies whispering on our shoulder. It pays to bring them to awareness, both to reinforce their wisdom and to access their validity in our current state of awareness and existence. What may have served us in the past is not necessarily valid for the present or future. These little reminders are all spiritual guides that flavor our spiritual journey and should be held in awareness. Many are uplifting experiences that should be honored. Not all of our spiritual lessons come from the wisdom of past cultures, teachers, and faith traditions. For that reason, I propose the seventh source. Thank you.
Thank you, Keene. Our closing hymn is The Sun That Shines, number 19 in the hymn book. It will also be on the screen. We will sing verses 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, I'll play it through once. We did it about a month ago, so it might sound familiar. Please stand.
chalice, and then Keene is going to do kind of a special benediction. We'll do the postlude and then announcements. We extinguish his chalice with the words of Brian Keeley. The chalice is now extinguished, but its light lives on in the minds and hearts and souls of each one of you. Carry on that flame with you as you leave this place and share it with those you know, with those you love, and most especially with those you have yet to meet.
What I would like is everybody to stand up and form a circle. I like circles. Circles are amazing.
We're working on it.
It's because you have to be around circles.
Hold on. It's a little bit more of a boomer. Okay.
This is a personal thing, but for 4 years, I have heard us sing the children out with a song that I like very dearly. And we're not going to sing it, but we're going to listen to it. The words are on the screen. And I want all of us to be blessed by the same song that we sing the children out with. So, Mary, you're in the circle too, usually.
Postlude. Thank you again. I have several announcements. I'll try and make them kind of quick. Most of them are in the petals that you get online. And if you don't get it online and would like it mailed to your home, please let us know, and we will do that. This Wednesday, July 12th, at Nadaka Park, which is just around the corner, from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m., there's a free musical performance by the classics band called Oregon Symphony Band, and that is from Becky Mace Robinson. Also on this Friday, oh no, that was Wednesday. This Friday, from 3 to 5, people from Eastrose will be volunteering at Snowcap. We'll be packing groceries for families, financial need in the neighborhood. Kim, raise your hand. There she is. You can talk to her about all the specifics on that. At General Assembly in June, we approved a new president, and our new president is Reverend Sophia Benacourt, and you can read all about her. I have met her online in groups previously before she ran, and she's just wonderful. So we are very, very lucky to have her in our leadership as president. RE, although you couldn't necessarily tell today, but our RE group is growing. And if you're interested in helping out in the RE program, contact Tara at familyministries@eastrose.org. Again, also in the newsletter. We have a donation barrel for Snowcap. Snowcap is for people in the area that need food and clothing. It was overflowing, which is great, and so let's keep up the new donations. Out in the Peace Garden, they could use help. Many of us, like Keene said, we worked yesterday and did a lot of cleanup, but it's ongoing and the weeds get kind of crazy. And last that I'm going to mention, oh, there is a Mount Hood Cluster Picnic. There's information about that. We need a building repairs and maintenance coordinator. Larry has done that in the past. He's been absolutely wonderful, but it's his time to step down from that job. So we need to find somebody that might be interested in that position. And I think there aren't any more. One more for the floor? Yes, come on, Cynthia. You could,
Okay.
Either way.
Let me do it up here. Really official. There's
Who are you?
I'm Cynthia,
And
I'm the president of the board.
Okay.
And I'm very happy these days. I feel like there's this old spiritual starts out, oh, happy day. And that's how I feel telling you our new minister is moving into her office on the 18th. It's 9 more days from today. I'm just like, it's really happening. Thank you, you know. And I'm so happy we got the carpet cleaned. Her office has been painted. You know, she's moving in her books and things on the 18th. She's already invited me to lunch. We've already set up the new board and some key committee heads and things. We'll be meeting with her, briefing her on sort of the state of Eastrose on August 2nd here from 10 to 2. So that she hits the ground running. And I'm just so excited that she's coming. And I think I was telling our visitor, Jason, today, I said, I think we hit the jackpot with this one. We're really excited after a year of being lay-led to have a resident minister come in. So I want you all to know that there's going to be, it's the first Sunday of August that she's preaching. It's Potluck Sunday. We're going to be sending out a lot of mailing information, postcards and whatnot, inviting everybody to come in and celebrate. I'd like you all to bring in flowers from your garden. Remember how we flooded the stage with flowers when we said goodbye to Reverend Patty? Let's do that to welcome Reverend Robin. And stay for the potluck. And bring your children. It'll be a wonderful day. So I'm just really excited. Can you tell? Okay, so that was my message.
Yes, John.
Gresham is doing its climate action plan. There's some cards like this, at the table in the back. There is a dinner and meeting session at Gresham High School Tuesday, July 25th. So anybody that's interested in a free dinner, come to fix the planet.
Thank you. Okay, no announcements. I know it was a lot. Services is ended. We can all have coffee, tea, and conversation. And thank you for being here.
And you're all welcome